Okay, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Pinky's Out Coffee Break. This is a session I started 3 episodes ago, so 3 weeks ago, where I interview someone awesome in the coffee scene in Vancouver, somebody doing something interesting, hopefully on a new topic each time, and usually someone that's at the top of their game, which is why I would like to introduce you to Stacey. Now, Stacey is, she's done a few different things around town. She's worked in a ton of different coffee shops. I would say she came to fame for me as, I believe it was head roaster, or he was certainly doing most of the roasting at Palate, where all of a sudden these wild and wacky coffees started reaching my doorstep. And I was like, who the hell is doing this? And I got to know Stacey, and she is now the head roaster at Harken. And Harken is about to open. We're going to talk about that later on. She's also multi-award winning. I tried counting them, and I did my did some research for this session, and I tried to work out how many different things you've won. And quite honestly, I got bored of reading about competitions. There's too many of them. So she has won, she's had a part to play in Golden Bean. She has been a winner in things like coffee competitions where you make alcoholic beverages. She's been a judge in various different things. So to suffice to say, she knows quite a bit about coffee. And that's what we're going to dig into today. So first off, hey, Stacey.
Hi.
All right. I want to jump straight into it. We're gonna actually focus to start with on a little bit about what got you into coffee, but I want you to see if you can kind of sway it towards how you got into coffee and then into roasting specifically.
Okay, sure. So coffee for me, I started basically as it was a job kind of after high school. I got just a job at like a little cafe kind of thing. I worked my way kind of like through university and everything, but it was still like when coffee was bad. Right. It was not good. It was like flavored coffee, like orange crush, Irish cream, like all those kinds of things, is how I started coffee. What I really liked a lot was like kind of more of the social aspect of everything is, like I grew up in a really small town. So, it's just like really being a part of the community. And then kind of as coffee progressed, I graduated from university. I was working as an archaeologist at the time. And then after I finished a kind of like a contract, a really good friend of mine was opening the very first like third wave coffee shop in our town. His family is really well known, so he was opening up Stir Coffee House in Ladner, and he was like, Stace, do you want to help me open this shop? And I was like, well, it's winter, it's cold outside, I don't want to be like digging up stuff in the mud. Heck yeah, I totally want to do this. So I started working at Stir, and then Stir is really still is. They work a lot with 49th Parallel. Mm-hmm. And at that time, 49th was getting ready for barista competition. And they had invited me and my staff to come and kind of do their little, like intro, like watch some Pete Licata, Matt Perger videos. Is this something that you want to do? I didn't really want to do it at all. I wanted somebody else to do it, and I just wanted to coach. But none of the girls who were working for me at the time were into it. So basically I was like, okay, I'll do it this time, but one of you is going to do it next time. So Rob and I kind of like, through this like presentation together, we had no idea what we were doing. We're like, okay, 4 espressos, 4 cappuccinos, 4 signature drinks. Yay. Not expecting to do anything, nothing. And then I made it to nationals on my first go. So we went to Toronto, had no idea again what we were doing. I was totally unprepared, but I did it. I met so many amazing people. And then I was like, okay, I'm kind of like not at that point, you're an adult, all those sports that you like I used to like to play, I'm not really playing those anymore, but this is a new competition I can do. Right. So that's kind of where that all started. I was like, all right, I'm in, like, I'm totally hooked. Maybe I don't ever want to do barista comp again, but there's more competitions like this that I can do. So that's kind of like how I really decided to like start diving into coffee. Now roasting. One of my customers came in and he's like, well, you've done this, like what's next on your list? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty happy here. I manage this shop. It's good. I don't know if I'm going to go back to archaeology. I really don't know what I'm going to do. And he's like, well, you should go out to Vancouver and meet my friend Doug Graff, who is, for anybody who doesn't know, basically like the guy who fixed your roaster anywhere in North America. I had no idea who this guy was. So I go knock on the door of East Van Roasters. And I'm like, hi, I'm Stacey. I hear you're going to teach me how to roast. And he's like, oh, is that what I'm doing? I'm like, I don't know. So I basically sat on the dishwasher at East Van, watched him roast some coffee. Then he put me to work and I started like weighing out coffee and stuff. Just kind of like watching. And then by the end of it, he was like, well, do you want to come back next week? And so I came back next week and I did that kind of like, I guess, basically volunteering at East Van Roasters for like almost a year. Mm-hmm. I went in every Monday on my day off. And I just like, I roasted every Monday. If Doug had to go somewhere, by the end of it, I was just kind of volunteering and roasting for them. And then after that, Outred Coffee Roasters, which is a big macro roaster in Delta. They roast like 1 million pounds a year. They were hiring a head roaster. And I thought, well, it's a good opportunity. They're not going to hire me, but, at least like I'll throw my hat in the ring and, like give it a shot. It's good, just, good experience, I guess, to have the interview. And then all of a sudden I got the job. And then I was with Doug installing, they've got 2 35 kilo floorings. So helped him install those. We installed those, literally drove straight down to SDA. I think it was the year they were doing Worlds in Seattle, watched all that, came home, and then all of a sudden I was roasting like 1 million pounds of coffee a year.
Not your typical journey, really.
No. So that's basically like how I started roasting.
So just comparatively then, at Harken, how many pounds do you anticipate to be roasting a year?
Nowhere near 1 million.
Right.
I'm not totally sure.
Because Outred, I've seen the operation there. It's enormous. They are a really, really big powerhouse of roasting. So I wanted to kind of put some perspective in for anyone that doesn't really know anything about roasting now.
Yeah, no, it was really kind of interesting because starting off that way, I got to roast everything. So like I learned how to, roast like dark French roast and not light it on fire. And then I also got to like, they've also got their like higher end lines as well. So I got to roast kind of like, I really got to see like every single part of like the coffee roasting world kind of working at Outred. So it was a really good like educational opportunity for me. I definitely had no idea what I was getting into at all, but I definitely I learned like a lot in those 2 years.
So taking it back then to East Van Roasters, you said you volunteered for a lot of that. So why did you keep coming back after the first time to do all of that for free?
I guess it's like here, like in Canada, like there isn't really much opportunity to learn how to roast. For starters, it's kind of like there's no like SCA classes or anything like that, or really only just starting here. So if you're not working at a roastery already, where you can kind of go in and be like, hey guys, can I like bag some beans and watch you roast? Like that opportunity isn't really something that's available. Plus just kind of like if anybody doesn't know, so East Van Roasters works in conjunction with the Portland Housing Society. So they work with women who are coming out of really bad situations and who want to get back into the workforce and get back into, more normal jobs, or they're coming off drug addiction, sex trade, like all that kind of stuff. So not only that, like not only learning to roast, but like having the opportunity to like help people was like super beneficial for me. I worked a lot with their baristas as well, kind of like in a mentor leadership way as well. So for me, that's like a really important thing. I also used to volunteer at Wish a long time ago. So I've kind of been like volunteering in the downtown east side for like almost 20 years now, on and off. So I just think that what they're doing at East Bend Roasters is really incredible. Yeah.
I agree. You've so from an outsider perspective, watching your career from the sidelines, it's very cool to see how you haven't stepped back from, or you haven't stepped into just the kind of the glory side of coffee. You're still happy to volunteer your time helping people out. You're very you advocate for women in coffee very strongly. I know I just saw that Laura has joined this session. She is the mastermind behind Strong Women of Coffee. So I've seen you involved in numerous kind of charitable and learning enterprises around town, and it's awesome to see. Not to suck up to you too much there, but it is great to see people do that, because in coffee you can get sucked into the glory side of it, really.
No, and I think like that's just the thing is like when I started coffee, like it was just, there was nobody really like, I mean, I'm very lucky that I had amazing mentors, but there was nobody really, I had no women to look up to. Like, it's all a bunch of, at that time, like old dudes, like, and I am so lucky to have them in my corner and to have them always supporting me. But I think like for me, like the most important things about competition is like, I was never really a good public speaker. I was never like, those were things for me. Like, I was like, I'm going to get better at public speaking. What's the best way of doing that? Just throw yourself in, right? Oh, talking in front of like all these people. I got it. No problem. So like, yeah, just kind of being that like anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can. And if you ever want help, I'll make time.
That's awesome. But you still get nervous though, right? Before those competitions? Oh, yeah. Has there been some sweaty palm moments? And, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little shaky every now and then, but yeah.
So on the subject of competitions then, like I joked at the beginning, I genuinely did lose track of the competitions you've won. But we can talk about all the different ones probably all day, right? But competitions are very in the moment. But one I really liked this is going to expose a little bit about me. That's probably not a good thing, but coffee and spirits definitely stings to my heart. And having tried some of your cocktails before, pretty damn good. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what coffee and spirits is? And then I'll kind of expand on some questions from that.
Yeah, for sure. So like in the competition world, which as we all know is on hold right now, there's different competitions. There's Brewers Cup, Barista, Cup Tasters. Coffee and Good Spirits is another one of those competitions. So it's kind of like different levels, but here in Canada, we do the last level that you would reach, like if you were doing Worlds. So if you were doing Worlds, you would do, there's one where it's like 2 signature drinks, then there's Spirit Bar, and then the top 6 go on to the final round. Because it's such a long competition, we just do the final round, which is 2 Irish coffees and then 2 signature drinks. So it's kind of like, I always explain like coffee competition is like you're making coffees for your judges and you're doing a TED talk at the same time. Right? So, but I like Coffee and Good Spirits because I feel like it's much more of like a customer oriented competition. I'm not talking so much about the farmer and this and that and kind of like all these like weird wacky things that you're doing basically just for barista competition. Whereas Coffee and Good Spirits, it's really about like, can you make this drink? Is it easy? Is it like repeatable? Like, can you make it, like, how do you make it on your bar, like on your bar? Like, when is it good for? Is it a patio season cocktail? Is it this? Is it that? So, and I I also really like to drink. So
and that's why we're friends.
exactly, right? So it kind of, and it's been really interesting. Like, I really like to, like, you know, like when you're getting to learn how to taste coffee, I think it's really important to taste everything. Like, and if you're like next level nerd, like you could have like a tasting notebook. I'm not that person, but I do admire people who do that.
Yeah.
But just learning how to taste spirits and learning how to taste wine and learning how to taste beer, it all just it all relates together, in my opinion. And learning how to taste all those things, I think, has really helped me learn and get better at tasting coffee as well.
Yeah. So on that subject then, tasting's one thing that a lot of people have problems with. When you say, this tastes like blueberries, or this tastes like chocolate, or citrus, or whatever it might be. How did you develop your palate other than just trying lots of different things?
So yeah, like for me, again, I think it's really important that we taste, like that we pay attention to what we're eating. I do associate a lot of the time, like what I'm like my flavor notes, not that we're doing flavor notes at Harken, but I kind of gear them a lot towards things that I think people are more like it's more relatable to a lot of people. But I think a lot of the time we get stuck on like, it tastes like blueberry. I don't taste blueberry, but maybe it's like got a juiciness of blueberry, or maybe it's got an acidity of blueberry. And it's not always so clear cut as to like what those are. And I think that's like the major problem, is people are just like tunnel vision on blueberry, like, but it's not necessarily like, you know, like, or like it's got a malic acidity. So it's like the acidity of an apple, or, you know, it can mean so many different things. And I just, it's it's really hard. I was trying to explain this the other day too, because a friend of mine has been doing like the Instagram lives, and he was asking me, he's like, I want to do one on taste. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to need more than an hour to do.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, so it's like, and I think again, like if you're a super nerd, you could always just like, when you get a coffee and it has like, you know, those tasting notes, maybe go out, you know, maybe it's blueberry, peach, and chocolate. Go out and get a blueberry, peach, and a chocolate and eat them, and then try your coffee.
Yeah. I'd say one of the things that really helped me in that subject, because my palate is nothing compared to yours, but it's certainly improved from when I started getting into coffee. And it was understanding, like you say, that blueberry, getting out of the tunnel vision, blueberry doesn't necessarily mean blueberry. And citrus was a big one for me. Citrus tastes the back of my mouth. And what happens is, if I have a lemon does the same kind of thing. A grapefruit does a sort of similar thing, but in a slightly different way. And I started paying attention to what foods did to my mouth. And then I started being able to go, a coffee I had that weird feeling as well. And then I'd look at the flavor notes, and it'd be, lemons, or, you know, apples, because it had like a slight dryness to it or something like that. So that's my tip. I don't know if that you can concur with that, or
that's a fantastic tip. Because it can totally be kind of like, those feelings that you feel like around your mouth and around your tongue and everything as well.
So you mentioned Harken is not going to have flavor notes on your coffee.
No.
What are you going to have?
Kind of more like, it's kind of like the ideas of like how it's making you like feel. So we've got 4 core blends. We've got spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So it's kind of like more of those ideas that, like, you know, it's like autumn is really like a warming and like comforting feel, whereas spring will be like much more like vibrant feel to it, I guess. Because we don't, again, it's like so often like people read those tasting notes and they're like, okay, I don't taste these, I must be wrong. And that is something that we really don't want. Okay. But if these flavors can make you think like, it's like a really hot summer day, and like it's super like juicy, and like, you know, like fruit, it is still fruity, but you know, like it's kind of more on those, you know, or like winter like makes you feel warm and cozy, and
And you're going to have those, all 4 of those all year?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I like the choice. You know me, I always get excited when you've got a new coffee out, when you were roasting for different roasters in the past. So I was a bit worried for a second there. I would have to wait like 3 months for the next one to come out, but that makes sense. And I'm happy to hear that. Now, how I've seen the photos, I don't know if they're actually mock-ups or whether they're actually photos of the boxes. They look like photos.
Yes.
They're pretty fancy.
Yes, the boxes are very fancy.
Yeah. What was the design reason behind those?
So Eldrick designed those, and again, it's kind of that same idea. So like not just taking like the idea of like flavor and taste, you know, like it's like warm and cozy because of autumn, but like the colors on the box for autumn are also colors that we really associate with, you know, with fall, and like summer is more bright and colorful. So basically like the colors on all of the boxes are associated with those seasons.
Gotcha. Okay. And
Yes.
when can we buy that coffee? Because I know that you just got your new roaster, or you've just got it fired up anyway, right?
Yes, yes. So hopefully everything should be going, well, not everything, it'll be kind of like slow release-ish,
Okay.
but things should be going up on the web shop kind of this weekend-ish, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll be doing some pre-orders for some other stuff. But some things will be available by this weekend, and then definitely everything will be available by the beginning of June.
Excellent. So I do want to talk more about you, but let's just quickly dip into sort of non-coffee stuff and Harken. Do you have an open date yet?
Open date?
Are you allowed to tell us the open date yet?
June 1st.
June 1st. Okay. As a consumer, what can we expect on June 1st? What can we come to the shop and, for example, eat and drink?
Eat and drink. June 1st. Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Eldrick is behind the scenes right now.
I figured as much. Hey, you can say what you want here. It can be as little or as much as you want.
Honestly, I'm just getting the answer because I wasn't sure. So our full menu will be available by June 1st. We'll have we won't have kind of all of the coffees available like all the time on brew bars. So it'll, but we will have like a couple single origins, espresso.
Brilliant. Yeah. And espresso is going to be, if I remember correctly, this whole thing's a vegan.
Everything's vegan.
So we're talking oat milks, or are we going to see some fancy blends of milks? What are we looking at?
Oat milks, and then I think there will be some kind of the same fancy milks that you guys that Eldrick was doing at Obad before. That's
what I was getting at. I was going to be pretty upset if he didn't have that.
Yes, those are secret recipes I don't even know. So
no, I think that he'll take those to his grave. I've been telling him he needs to can that stuff for ages. But anyway, well, I'll keep working on it for that. All right. So that's Harken stuff. We'll make some noise about that on Instagram, and I'm sure you will as well. Let's look back to roasting. Now, so you did all this volunteering. You became a right from scratch, basically from no roasting experience to, one of the most talked about roasters in the city, in my opinion. What are some tips now that the kind of the landscape's changed and there are all these like home machines you can use to roast? What are some tips for someone who just wants to roast at home but doesn't know how to get started?
Oh my gosh. To roast at home and it's not going to turn out the way it's, I honestly I cringe at this whole home, I do it, explore. It's gonna not taste good a lot of the time. Joe Morocco, he does a YouTube. It's when he was with Mill City. He does a whole YouTube video. I think there's 10 episodes. Watch those.
Okay.
That's honestly every time I get a new roaster, somebody who's apprenticing with me, before they even start, I'm okay, so first you've got to go home, and you have to watch these like 10 episodes on YouTube. Yeah, it's so complicated. Honestly, I don't even know where I would start to teach people how to roast at home.
Yeah.
I'd make sure you have a well-ventilated area.
Oh, yeah.
Roasting coffee at home is very smoky. Just keep practicing. Kind of maybe start with like, I don't even know, Tom.
Okay. I was just keeping quiet because I was enjoying seeing you struggle to answer that there. That was very entertaining. I'm going to throw in my experience there.
Okay.
I got chatting with Edmund from Moving Coffee, and
Okay.
he had a spare whirly popcorn maker. And me being the idiot that I thought that I was, I thought, how hard could it be? I got some. I got my green beans from You Roasted Coffee. They're Spent Grounds, same company over in Surrey, and fired up the stove, put the beans in, span the like the windy thing for about 15 minutes, smoked the entire apartment out, made everything smell for ages, and made what is quite possibly the worst coffee I've ever smelled or tasted in my whole entire life. And it was one of those things, like I get this when I talk to people about sourdough at the moment, and it's one of those things that looks fairly simple, right? It's just heat and beans in this case, or sourdough is just like flour and water and pretty much it, really. But it is so much more difficult than I ever possibly imagined, and I felt like a bit of an idiot after that. I would say maybe from what I understand, my advice that I keep getting from people is buy something called an Ikawa roaster, which roasts 100 grams at a time, and just download a recipe and push it up to the Ikawa and make sure you got the right beans and it does it for you.
That's basically it. The Ikawa does make everything like it's super easy. There's so many fantastic roasters on the Ikawa, like who have put in roasts for the Ikawa. It is a really good one. And there's also the Alio, I don't know. It's like the bullet of, it's the ones they have at Prototype. You can get a smaller version than what they have at Prototype. I think personally, it goes for like, I want to say like 3,000 US, but I'm not sure. It's like half the price of the Ikawa. But it's a really fantastic roaster. I would highly recommend, if roasting at home is something that you do want to do, it's a more affordable option. And it gives you kind of like more of that feeling of like actually like roasting. You know, it's a little drum. It kind of looks like a little pig.
It totally does.
Super cute, right? It's like a little black pig. You can have that like, you know, relationship with your roaster, whereas like we have an Ikawa, it's super handy. I love it, but it's not the same. It's not the same like my roaster. Yeah,
exactly. So all right. Let's think about the skill level of some roasters out there. So you know, there are varying levels around Vancouver. There are some roasters, and this isn't bad mouthing people or anything like that, but there are some roasters that never dip into the lighter roast kind of coffee. They never progress further from the kind of the dark roast, really toasty stuff. That, in my opinion, doesn't really bring out any of the flavors of coffee. So in your experience, do you have an opinion on why people never make it to that stage where they move away from dark roasting?
I think that there's still like such a large market for dark roast. And again, like doing like a good dark roast, it's not particularly easy either. You know, like to get a dark roast that doesn't just taste like ash and coal and whatever notes of volcanic this and that, you know, rocket fuel. It's not particularly easy. So I think like once you really mastered that, like, and it's something that you're good at, there's still like such a huge market, really. I mean, my dad will not drink what I roast. It's like hot. Why would I want to drink hot fruit juice?
Nice.
Oh yeah. You
Yeah.
know, like, whereas like my mom was actually my team for when I did barista comp the first time. So she went through like, and she again is like a milk and sugar, you know, more medium roast kind of person, but yeah, like she toughed it out and like drank like espressos and this and that and all of it. But really like she kind of has progressed,
Okay.
but it's because I forced her to learn. I think if I hadn't done that, you know, kind of that older gen, like she would have continued on with it, like, you know, the dark roast, the espresso, like, you know, she has her little DeLonghi at home and she pours like shots that are like at least like 70 grams. And I'm like sitting there cringing inside and I'm like, no. And then she like microwaves her milk because she doesn't want to get the steam wand dirty. And I'm just like, I can't even, but, I think really like with the older generation, there's still just such a large market for dark roast that, you know, like why would you want to, like certain companies, it's like, that's the bulk of like what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So why would you want to change?
Fair enough.
Kind of thing, you know? So, I mean, I don't want to be roasting dark roast personally, so I'm quite happy there are other people who do that.
Yeah, great answer. So you mentioned that you've started to get your mum into this a little bit, right? So that sounds like a slow progression. Was yours the same kind of thing? Were you drinking dark roast and you slowly progressed into light roast, or was there that one coffee where you went, "Whoa, what is this?"
Okay, so I also worked for Salt Spring Coffee
Right.
for like 7 years on and off. I used to run the cafe, like the little kiosk in the Tsawwassen Ferry Terminal. So I did that for a really long time. And at one point, Drew, who now owns Bows and Arrows, was our director of coffee. And this is kind of like right on that cusp where, you know, like things were just starting to change. And we had just bought this Ethiopian lot from Sidamo. If we were going to do it as like a single origin, like medium light roast kind of thing. And yeah, he came into the kiosk to do some training or whatever. And he told me this coffee is going to taste like blueberries. And
Nice.
I was like, yeah, right. Coffee doesn't taste like blueberries. It tastes like coffee. You know, coffee tastes like coffee. It has that one flavor, you know, like that's it. It's got earthy tones, mossy tones, whatever you want to say, but coffee just tastes like coffee. And then all of a sudden it actually tasted like blueberries. And I was like, okay. So anyways, yeah, I was just kind of like, that was basically like kind of like my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that
Nice.
point, I was just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, coffee can taste like more than this. And that's kind of where my whole like transition of like coffee changing for me really was. That was like the spark in the moment for me. We're going to go on a little walk, guys. They need I know. Hi. Okay, we can keep going.
Are you getting kicked out of the area, or are you taking us on a tour?
There's no tour. You guys can't see anything yet. I'm getting kicked out.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? It's probably a pretty good time to start asking you some of the questions that have come in.
Yeah.
I see there's something in the chat. Okay, we got one from Eric. He says, "Are you excited to work with Eldrick to really dial in the coffee flavors via the different brew methods?"
Yes, I am super excited to work with Eldrick and brew and like just dial in everything. We actually, I don't know if anybody knows, but we did Roastmasters in New York in November. And that was kind of the first time that we really had the opportunity to like work together. So that was really fun kind of watching him dial in coffees that I had roasted. So I was the roaster, so I would talk about like what we were roasting. And then, yeah, so that was kind of the first time we got to work together. So it's been a lot of fun just kind of seeing how he does things and how I do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, next question. Looking for a nice summer coffee cocktail recipe. There's something else on there. Let me just see if I can work out what that is. It's cut it off here. I'm going to share the response. Oh, please, at the end.
All right. A nice summer coffee cocktail. One that I really like, which is a cocktail done by one of the world champions, Martin Hudak. He has a bar called Maybe Sammy in Sydney. He calls it the Martiki. It's like a kind of like if you got like a really fruity espresso, then you pair that with pineapple juice. Pineapple juice, like an orgeat, and then I like mine with rum, as well as like a little bit of like a coffee liqueur, and just shake that. Give it a shake. It's really yummy, really nice.
So that comes out quite good. That sounds like quite an intense drink. There's no like soda water or anything that dilutes it down.
You've got, because you're going to shake it over ice. So you've got your pineapple, your orgeat, your espresso. And so there's like 3 things that you're already kind of diluting it with. Then like, I'd say like maybe like an ounce of rum and like a half ounce of coffee liqueur. Nice.
Okay. So I heard 4 ounces of rum and 2 ounces of coffee liqueur for my one. Sweet. All right. Next one. How is Pepper? So first off, who is Pepper?
Pepper is my cat.
Okay.
She's fantastic. She's a little angry because I am actually coming back to work now every day. So for a lot of, I guess like COVID and everything, I've been working from home, getting everything ready for Harken. So these past 2 weeks, I have been here like every day. So there's been a bit of an adjustment there. But Pepper is good.
So you should get yourself one of those, I think they're called Furbos or Furbies or something like that. And you can see with the webcam, you can see your pet and you can talk to your pet via an app, and then you can shoot treats out of it. So
oh my gosh,
can go chase the treats. Now we know who Pepper is. The question is, how is Pepper approaching the first crack?
How is Pepper approaching the first crack?
I don't even know how to answer that question. First off, what's first crack? For anyone that doesn't know.
So first crack is when like the water is all like releasing from the beans. And then after first crack is when we get development time.
This is in roasting.
This is in roasting. So the development time is kind of like what we're kind of gauging a lot of like our sugar development in the coffee for. Pepper, I don't know, she does watch the Akawa. She likes Zoom chats, and I was having a Zoom chat with Rob Hoos the other day. She was super into it. So, maybe she learned something, and next time I, turn the Akawa on, she'll, help me profile coffees.
What a great answer to, let's be honest, quite a strange question. I'm impressed. You did well. The other one's about Pepper. Hang on, I'm going to have to expand this one. We've already kind of approached it. How is Pepper adjusting to your now increasing workload?
I guess
we've already spoken about that, really. Yeah.
I have.
Okay, well, I guess that was the final question. I guess I'll just kind of end that with my assumption is that Pepper has the knowledge and the skills that she passes on to you to be a good roaster, and it's actually all her doing. You're just a conduit. You just call her up every now and then. They're like, I've got a massive roast to do. I don't know how to do it.
Yes. No, that's totally it. It's just, I give her a little call, she meows, I interpret it. It's great.
Thanks for being a good sport with this inane ramblings that are happening right now. All right,
she's
Josh.
super into cupping, actually.
Yeah,
because I've also been cupping at home. And I've tried to get some pictures, but it hasn't worked out. But she actually jumps up on the table and she needs to get her nose in everything. So Yeah.
You could get some amazing Instagram fodder with cups full of milk, like different types of milk, and the cat
Ooh.
sampling them. Think of all the likes you'd get. All right. Next question from Josh. If I may squeeze in a question here, he says, what was the biggest hurdle for you in learning how to roast coffee?
Biggest hurdle. I think again, like I got really lucky. I've had like a ton of really amazing mentors.
Mm-hmm.
That, to be honest, like my coffee roasting career has been hugely supported. So like I've always kind of had like those people to ask questions to. But I think like the major thing for me is like when I did start roasting, I was the only like female roaster in the city. So there was, like you're kind of like walking into a boys club. And again, a lot of them are like much older than me as well. So there's, the generational gap too.
Yeah.
But I think like the most important part is like not being afraid to ask questions. Like, I think that that's kind of like this thing is like, so many people like think, well, they don't want to share their secrets kind of thing. But even if like I were to roast something exactly the same way as like, or like take like what somebody told me about how to roast something, there's so many different variables that can happen that I honestly think that no two roasts are ever going to be the same. But I think, like the most important, biggest hurdle for me was, learning to ask for help.
Nice.
But again, like I have such a huge support system. And just, again, like, I think it's just like, just getting out there and being a part of your community as well, and developing those friendships and developing those contacts and relationships. And like coffee is all about relationships on like every single level, like from customer service to relationships at the farm to relationships with your peers to like, it just goes on and on and on and on, really. So yeah, I think it's just like, for me, like, I'm also like a pretty like, and again, like nobody ever believes this, but like, I'm a pretty introverted person. Like I live alone. I'm happy to live alone with my cat kind of thing. So like, like just like really learning to put myself out there was kind of, I guess, my biggest hurdle.
That's great advice. There was a few kind of gems in there. Asking for help is one of those bits of advice that in any industry, in any job, it's just such a useful thing to do. And the one thing I can say about coffee is that it is full of people that want to help you. It's blown my mind how friendly people were. I'm from an IT background and now I do coffee. And the reason I do coffee is because I saw these lovely, amazing people and wanted to be a part of it. So I think that that's a really, really decent bit of advice there.
Yeah. I mean, we look at so many, it's like, oh, I could never talk to this person, but it's like, really, we're doing the same job. Like we're the same people. It's just, no, I mean, I've had my starstruck moments, but then again, it's like in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God, we're both baristas. Like, calm down and just like ask them the question or whatever. Or like, when somebody like comes up to me and they're like, oh my God, I want to ask, and I'm like, just a person.
I've seen a few of those moments. There's one, I probably shouldn't name names because she'd kill me, but she's got a coffee Instagram account and she's brilliant. And she got starstruck by meeting one of her favorite roasters once. And she told me the story and it was freaking adorable. And it's great because people don't even realize that they are these popular people in the coffee industry. It's one of the overwhelming things is lack of ego. I find a lot of the time there is plenty of ego out there, but there are some really, really unegotistical people that should be egotistical. And I don't think I would be if I was as good at roasting as say you, or as good at making coffee as Eldrick, or, as good as opening a million coffee shops as Sammy or someone like that. I would be the most egotistical person, and I would crash and burn in flames very, very quickly. So hats off to you. I'm impressed. Okay, we got no more questions now. Is there anything you want to leave us with, maybe specifically towards coffee shops reopening or coming to see Harken or anything like that?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm assuming most of the people here who are watching aren't consumers, but I think like we just all need to this is such a crazy time. Everything is so, like I was in a coffee shop the other day and it was just one barista and she was trying her darndest to get everything done. And there were these other two, they were only allowing like 3 people in at a time. But yeah, she was getting a hard time for being too slow. I didn't think she was being too slow, but I think patience. We all just need to be patient and kind and understanding with all of this. We're gonna be opening very soon, so follow along and watch, and we're gonna try our best to get. I don't know. We're gonna try our best. Awesome. Obviously, like the whole idea behind Harken is to be that like really like close contact, intimate space where we the baristas get to spend time with you. And I think we're pretty bummed that we're not going to be able to open the way that we wanted to open. For anybody who's been to a bod before, we wanted that same feeling of like basically you're just having a conversation with us while we're just hanging out and having coffee. And eventually we're really hoping that is something that we will be able to do in the future. But until then, we're going to have some super tasty coffees that I'm really excited about. And Tomoko, our chef, is making like the best vegan food I've ever had. She blows my mind, to be honest. Like, I am so honored that my coffee gets to go with her food because she slays in that kitchen, man. Like, she's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, there you go. There's the lack of ego right there. So that was June 1st that you're going to be open. What time?
I think we open at like 8:30.
Okay, maybe we'll say June 1st. Check out at Harken Coffee for more info on the exact time. Stacey, thank you so much for joining us today. That was awesome. If people have questions about roasting, can they reach out to you?
Yeah. If you have questions about anything, please my Instagram is open. Send me a message. I will always do my best to answer it. And if I can't answer it, I probably know somebody who can. And I will put you in contact, or I will get the answer for you. That's amazing. Thank you, Stacey. That was great. I'm going to end the recording for everybody now. If they want to stick around and ask any more questions, it's just going to be the recording that stops, and you can hit us up in the chat window. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Bye.